and you're watching Uz Report World News Broadcasting with the latest news from Uzbekistan and around the world. The government of Uzbekistan is now working on boosting railway communications with the Russian Federation. President Shavkat Mirziyoyev received Oleg Belozorov, General Director Chairman of Russian Railways Management Board, on Wednesday.
The sites analyzed the ways to promote important infrastructure projects designed to effectively use the transit potential of the entire region. President mentioned the traditionally close ties between the railway administrations of the two countries, including within the framework of the international industry structures. Particular attention was paid to the issues of deepening practical partnership, including interaction in the field of improving the railway system in the Republic, as well as establishing mechanisms for transporting agricultural products. The issue of joint promotion of the project for the construction of the Mazari-Sharif-Kabul-Peshawar Railway was considered separately, with the involvement of international financial institutions.
The Chevrolet brand has topped the list of the best-selling car models in Kazakhstan. The Association of Kazakhstan Automobile Business said that demand for these cars has surged by almost 5,000%.
According to the source, in just the first 4 months of this year, sales of Uzbek cars in Kazakhstan soared by 4,697% compared to the same period last year. The report says that in January-March of this year, residents of Kazakhstan purchased 8,923 Uzbek cars, while during the same period in 2020, this figure was 186 units. Chevrolet also led to the top 3 in sales with 2,652 cars in April, followed by South Korean Hyundai 2,302 and Japanese Toyota 1,233. Meanwhile, Uzbekistan itself is suffering a shortage of cars today. To buy a car, citizens must pay 85% of its cost according to the contract and wait about 4 or 5 months for its production. The automaker attributes the problem to a global shortage of microchips.
In a bid to expand the production volume, CocaCola has opened a new line in Uzbekistan. With Italian specialists working, it will increase the volume of output, whereby reduce the price. The details in our next report.
The format of a drink in cans first appeared in 1960. Then it was impossible to open the jar without the help of a bottle opener. And in 1964, the participation of the Coca-Cola company, a can with a lifting top was developed and presented to the bottle companies, which was so much needed by the manufacturers of soft drinks. On April the 22nd, 1969, the first cluster pack was released on the market, a container for 24 cans of Coca-Cola. This was another, and not the last, innovation of the Coca-Cola company. The company also began to use banks to conduct large-scale actions in order to attract people's attention to important social topics. For example, in 2011, together with the World Wildlife Fund, a campaign was launched in the US and Canada, which was called Arctic House. For this occasion, the classic Coca-Cola was released in white cans, symbolizing the color of the Arctic. As a result, the campaign managed to raise a record $2 million. It was one of the most successful promotions in the history of Coca-Cola. The launch of the bank with the slogan "Made in Uzbekistan" was not chosen by chance. As a global company, Coca-Cola operates locally and highly respects the national values, culture, and traditions of the country in which it operates.
In 2018, the UN General Assembly declared 20th of May as World Bee Day. Every year, this day enables us to raise awareness on the essential role bees and other pollinators play in keeping people and the planet healthy, and on the many challenges they face today.
This year, World Bee Day falls during an exceptional moment in history when many countries continue to deal with the widespread effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The day calls for global cooperation and solidarity to counter the threats posed by the COVID-19 pandemic to food security and agricultural livelihoods, alongside prioritizing environmental regeneration and pollinator protection. FAO representation in Uzbekistan, in cooperation with Association of Uzbekistan Beekeepers, implements technical cooperation program on support to sustainable apiculture development. The program aims to improve living conditions of rural population while contributing to implementation of the decree of the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan on measures for further development of the beekeeping industry in the Republic. By implementing this program, we bring high-level attention to introduction of innovative technologies in the beekeeping industry, equipment supply, improvement of teaching capacities of educational institutions for preparing apiculture specialists, as well as to promotion of international international exchange of experience through translating and adapting textbooks and enhancing cooperation with foreign apiculture experts, Sherzod Umarov, assistant FAO representative in Uzbekistan, noted, adding that as part of the program, the innovative information exchange system was developed for beekeepers.
Uzbekistan and Russia have agreed to attract Uzbek migrants for the railways construction as Uzbek Deputy Prime Minister Sardor Murzakov met with Russian Railways General Director Oleg Belozorov. The head of Russian Railways voiced significant opportunities for the development of practical cooperation concerning labor migration. Following the meeting, a memorandum was signed between Russian Railways and the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations of Uzbekistan on attracting qualified labor resources for railway infrastructure facilities construction in the Russian Federation. Uzbekistan is planning to cancel the mask regime after vaccinating 70% of its citizens, anti-coronavirus agency member Sevaro Baydullaeva has reported. According to her, people who have developed immunity would be allowed to visit public places without masks, as well as not observe social distance. She made an example of the United States and some European nations where anti-coronavirus requirements were lessened to the vaccinated ones.
Motorcycle racers, entrepreneurs, and now ambulance drivers. Brothers Murtaza Junaid and Mutib Zohib are part of a growing number of informal volunteers and volunteer groups across India, risking their own health to try and fight the country's overwhelming coronavirus disaster. The pair respond to hundreds of calls every week, from transferring patients to picking up dead bodies. Zohib says that seeing harrowing footage of the health crisis and hearing accounts of families being overcharged by professional ambulance services spurred them to volunteer.
So that actually made me very much sad and emotional that this is not the time to sit at home. This is the time to serve my country and the citizens of my country, and this is my responsibility as a citizen, rather than blaming on anyone, that let me just take it on myself and do my responsibility.
Volunteers like them are particularly cropping up in smaller towns as the pandemic death toll spreads beyond urban centres. Some groups help locate critical care beds and stocks of critical supplies. College student Nicole Sherian has been volunteering with her sister Tina Mary at a Bengaluru graveyard.
We're not just sitting around, because I feel like when I sit around at home I feel worse, or like even if I don't have a fever I'll think that I do, but now when I'm here, when I'm on the ground, like I feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose kind of thing.
On Wednesday, ThyroCare, a chain of private laboratories, said that 2/3 of people tested in India have shown exposure to coronavirus, fueling fears that the highly infectious India variant has run out of control there.
17-year-old Moroccan migrant Adam is one of the over 8,000 migrants who entered Spain's North African enclave Ceuta from Morocco earlier this week, just before Spanish authorities carried out mass expulsions of migrants.
Actually, I am here in Ceuta, and I'm here for survive and for help my family. My country don't have any justice. The Morocco is big bad country.
On Wednesday morning, Spanish soldiers in combat gear and police officers were seen escorting some swimmers directly back to Morocco, while Moroccan police drove hundreds of young men away from the border fence. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said as many as 4,800 who entered Ceuta had been sent away.
Let's remember, the border with Ceuta is not only the border between Morocco and Spain, but it's also a European border. Consequently, the lack of control, in this case by the Moroccan authorities, isn't only a lack of respect towards Spain, but towards the European Union as a whole.
The Spanish enclave's leader had accused Moroccan authorities of failing to police their side of the border actively, and linked that to a decision by Madrid to admit Brahim Ghali, the rebel leader of the Polisario Front, in a Spanish hospital. The Polisario Front wants the Western Sahara to be an independent state rather than part of Morocco. Sanchez did not make this connection, but Morocco's Minister of State for Human Rights, El Mustafa Ramid, suggested that his country has the right to relax border controls as Spain is hosting, quote, the head of a group that took up arms against the kingdom. A diplomatic source who declined to be named said Rabat recalled its ambassador to Madrid for consultations, adding that relations with Spain needed a moment of, quote, contemplation.
Nearly $1 trillion. That's how much value was wiped out of the cryptocurrency market at one point Wednesday. A full meltdown after China announced a ban on its financial and payment companies providing any services for the cryptocurrency industry. Bitcoin, the most visible of the new digital currencies, temporarily plunged all the way to the $30,000 mark for the first time in 3.5 months. Other cryptos like Ethereum, Dogecoin, and Litecoin tumbled as well in one of the biggest plunges since March 2020. It could have been even worse. A cryptic crypto message on Twitter from the patron saint of crypto, aka Tesla CEO Elon Musk, helped digital currencies shed some of their losses. Diamond hand emojis from Musk, social media shorthand for an investor who's standing firm or taking a rock-hard position on a trade or investment, was enough to help cryptos pull off their worst levels of the day, even though it's not clear what Musk was referring to. Musk has been a central figure in crypto's rise and fall. Bitcoin has roughly been cut in half since last month's record high after Musk did an about-face and said Tesla would no longer accept Bitcoin for payment. Wednesday's cryptocurrency slump spilled over into the stock market. Coinbase, the world's largest publicly traded cryptocurrency exchange, tumbled even further from its historic April debut. Amid reports, it suffered an outage due to the stampede from crypto. Other companies exposed to crypto or the blockchain like Square and Riot Blockchain suffered big stock declines as well. Even with Wednesday's crypto carnage, the price of Bitcoin is up more than 100% over the past 6 months and up more than 30% so far this year.
A day after the New York Attorney General's office announced a criminal investigation into former President Donald Trump's company, the ex-president came out swinging Wednesday, describing the probe in a statement as a corrupt investigation that is in desperate search of a crime, adding that he was being unfairly attacked and abused by the New York Attorney General, and that he would overcome any attempt at prosecution. The Office of New York Attorney General Letitia James, which has been investigating whether the New York City-based Trump Organization falsely reported property values to secure loans and obtain economic and tax benefits, said on Tuesday its probe was no longer purely civil. Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance has been investigating Trump's pre-presidency business dealings for more than 2 years. Vance's office has said in court filings it was investigating possibly extensive and protracted criminal conduct at the Trump Organization, including tax and insurance fraud and falsification of business records. The latest announcement marks another escalation of the legal jeopardy Trump faces 4 months after leaving office, taking the number of known criminal investigations of the former Republican president to 3. He's also facing a criminal investigation in Fulton County, Georgia, as prosecutors there are probing whether Trump attempted to influence the state's 2020 election results.
Uniqlo is the latest brand to face a headache over cotton from China's Xinjiang region. Customs documents show that the US blocked imports of some shirts back in January. That was over concerns they violated a ban on cotton products from Xinjiang, where there have been reports of forced labour. A document dated May 10th shows that one shipment was impounded at the port of Los Angeles on January 5th. The document says a protest filed by Uniqlo parent company Fast Retailing was denied. There was no response Wednesday to a request for comment from the Japanese company. A China Foreign Ministry spokesman said there was no forced labour and the US was using bullying tactics. He called on affected companies to stand up to what he called Washington's irrational acts.
As scores of Hondurans make the northern trek to the U.S. border in search of a better life, many telling Reuters they are fleeing a government that plays favorites, rewarding supporters, and all too often, ignoring everyone else.
We do not come here because we want to, but because of our needs. Unfortunately, no one understands this. The government does not understand poor people's situation. Do you understand? In what way does our government help us? If our government supported us, we would not be walking here.
Los apoyaron, nosotros no anduviéramos acá.
Whether it's food, government jobs, or other benefits, many migrants say it's the supporters of Honduras's ruling National Party who receive the most. An unfair distribution made worse during a recent hunger crisis caused by the pandemic and 2 hurricanes last year. Former National Party lawmaker Raul Pineda Alvarado.
They prefer to mask political activity through those social aid programs, which involve the daily reality of the ruling party's voters. They give them the water filter, a decent roof over their head, the cement floor, the bonus. We are a clientelist, populist organization.
The patronage system in Honduras is known as clientelism. And according to migrants and policy specialists, it helps fuel migration to the U.S. by breeding cynicism among those deprived of public benefits. The Conservative National Party, since winning an election in the wake of a 2009 military coup, has built a formidable political machine that wields great influence over the lives of Honduras's 10 million people. The National Party routinely uses its control of government institutions and funds to reward supporters, punish opponents, and influence elections, according to Reuters interviews with 24 current and former government officials, opposition politicians, anti-corruption investigators, and others. But the ruling party denies playing favorites and said such allegations are typical of President Juan Orlando Hernandez's opponents. Executive Secretary for the National Party, Fernando Anduré.
The database we use to grant assistance is a database that is justified by the socioeconomic status of many families that do not necessarily belong to the National Party.
Son nacionalistas. Honduran resident Jose Alfredo Calix disagrees.
If I were waiting for help from the government, I would die of hunger.
A 2019 report by the Latin American Public Opinion Project at Vanderbilt University found Honduras had the second highest level of clientelism in Latin America after the Dominican Republic. The study found that more than 18% of Honduran voters surveyed in 2014 said they were offered a gift, favor, or benefit in exchange for their vote in the presidential election. The survey, however, did not state which political parties made the alleged offers.
Ryanair has won a rare victory in its battle against state aid payments to rival airlines. Europe's General Court on Wednesday annulled support given to KLM of the Netherlands and Portugal's TAP. It said the European Commission hadn't provided sufficient reasoning to support approving the payments, though the Luxembourg-based court said the annulments would be suspended pending new decisions by the Commission. Ryanair will be able to challenge those decisions at the same court if it isn't satisfied. The EU last year cleared a bailout for KLM valued at $4.15 billion. TAP got a loan worth around a third of that sum. In a statement Wednesday, Ryanair said the aid was contrary to European law and put back the process of liberalising air transport. The same court has, however, previously backed aid for carriers including SAS, Finnair and KLM's partner, Air France. Now the European Commission says it will study the rulings before deciding its next steps.
Stocks dropped Wednesday for a third straight day as inflation fears kept investors on edge. The Dow was down 164 points. The S&P 500 gave up 12. The Nasdaq slipped 3. Minutes from the Federal Reserve's April meeting were released Wednesday. While policymakers agreed the U.S. economic rebound was a long way from hitting the Fed's goal, a couple of policymakers voiced concern the Fed could be forced to play catch-up if inflation gets too hot. There was also some discussion about the need, quote, at some point to begin discussing the removal of extra assistance put in place. Liz Miller is president of Summit Place Financial Advisors.
The Fed minutes just added fuel to the fire. And I think that's only because investors are looking for answers to today's data, to the most recent information. And the minutes today are looking back to last month. And it feels like such a different time. Since then, we had the inflation spike at the top line. We had very strong retail data. We had very strong consumer sentiment that doesn't feel like it's being addressed by those minutes.
It was a day of chaos in the cryptocurrency market. Investors dumped cryptos like Bitcoin after China tightened the ban against any transactions by local financial and payment companies. Selling pressure did ease after a cryptic tweet from Tesla CEO Elon Musk was interpreted by some as a message of support. Bitcoin, the largest of the digital coins, was down nearly 10% late in the day. On the corporate front, the retail sector continued to produce outstanding results. Target easily smashed quarterly profit and sales forecasts thanks to a surge in apparel sales, a rise in store traffic, and a boost in digital sales. It also gave an upbeat sales forecast for the second half of the year.
These were the top headlines for today. Stay safe and goodbye.